I want to take if I can, a moment of personal preference and talk to a guy who has spent a lot of time with Ford family. Matt McLogan, I believe, is standing by at the Ford Museum. Good evening, Matt, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, Rick. Thanks for asking me.
Matt spent a lot of time covering politics in West Michigan. He was a very young man, not to suggest that he has been around that long. And I know that you knew the Ford family very well. You covered Congressman Ford, Vice President, President Ford, and I know that you were also fond of and knew the First Lady quite well as your work with the foundation. Give me your thoughts tonight. Obviously, the condolences and the caring for the family, but also your thoughts, your remembrance of Betty Ford.
Rick, I come back to three things. First, her role as First Lady and both her willingness and ability to speak her mind on issues, even if those were not necessarily the positions of the President. I think that was one of the reasons why she became one of the most popular American women for all the time that she was in the White House and for many years thereafter. But what I think is probably her legacy is the fact that she brought breast cancer and substance abuse out of the shadows into mainstream discussions, set up the Betty Ford Clinic in California, and in so doing saved hundreds of thousands of lives. Women who did not get mammograms or regular breast care were encouraged by their husbands, who were encouraged by Betty Ford to have them seek medical attention. And of course, what she did with substance abuse was legendary. Going to Betty Ford's became a noun and a verb, and it saved lots of lives. Not many First Ladies can have that as part of their legacy. I think it makes Mrs. Ford one of the most consequential First Ladies of all time.
One of the things we've been talking about, Matt, and tell me if you agree with this or not, I think that in many ways, we talked about Jacqueline Kennedy and how people saw her as a fashion icon and obviously just a vision in the way she redid the White House and some of her interests and some of her causes. But in many ways, would you agree with the premise that Betty Ford has become kind of the activist template for the First Ladies of this generation? Because from that point on, almost every First Lady has taken on some important issue, an issue that has real consequence, and tried to see it through. And that kind of seems to stem from some of Betty Ford's leading, if you will.
Rick, I think you're spot on, and it's no accident that the excellent public television documentary of Betty Ford, which came out a couple of years ago, was titled Betty Ford, the Real Deal. She really is.
Tell me about your role. Obviously, you are with Grand Valley State University, but you too, like Tim Petriga, who we had on earlier, do considerable work with the foundation. You will be involved with some of these preparations moving forward. I know the family has not yet made any of those public, but it is fair to say that over the next several days we'll see a lot of activity down at that plaza and at the museum where you are.
There will be, it's certainly well known, Rick, and I think I heard you mention before our interview started that there will be a lying in repose for Mrs. Ford here on the grounds of the museum, and of course it's well known that she'll be buried next to President Ford. His coffin is at the north end of the museum, and there will be a homecoming service and a funeral service here. The exact dates and the times and the sequences are being determined now by the family, and we'll know more in the next couple of days as those arrangements are finalized.
Matt, I suspect and I hope that we talk more over the next several days, and your time working here at 24-Hour News 8 and covering politics and covering the Fords. You're a valuable asset and always a friend of the station. We look forward to having you on as our coverage will continue over the next several days, and we thank you for joining us at this late hour tonight.